Hey, welcome to the Buzz. This is your host, Michael Weaver, and I am super stoked for today's episode. We about to get buzzed on the buzz, my friends. We've got a special guest, Mr. Tim Thompson. Tim, how are you today, brother?
Oh man, if I was any better, I'd probably be yourself, man. So we're gonna just be in unison today.
I love it. So, for those that may not know Tim, Tim is Tim, you kind of let him know what you do.
Oh man, I mean, in short, um, I help people staff salespeople. That's what I do. I help people staff. I help companies, businesses, small businesses. Whatever it is that you have, I'll take a shot at. But typically, my bread and butter is helping insurance agencies staff salespeople and any company staff a salesperson altogether. If that's what you're looking for, then I have a team of individuals who go out and they find people and attract them to what it is that you have, and will legit help sort out what the characteristics can be to help merge with your culture. All in all, that's kind of what I do. Yeah.
I love that. Now, why I wanted to bring Tim on is because Tim's dealing. Look, he's in the recruiting world, and recruiting is literally something I get asked about every day. Like, Michael, man, we can't find anybody. Who do you recommend? Like, and so what's going on? How can I be more attractive to people? What does it look like? And so, for all my friends that are listening right now on the buzz, like I thought that, look, I've brought on some other recruiters. I wanted to bring on Tim just to get his input as well because it's been a while. So Tim, I think the first thing my first question is like, what are you seeing from a trend standpoint going on right now in our economy? Like, just talk a little bit about what you're seeing on your end before we get into some of the other things I want to talk about today.
Sure, sure. I I want to backtrack a little bit to what happened during like COVID per se, to give an idea about why the market is the way it is now, and about there's somewhat of a loophole that a lot of people, especially insurance agents, since we're going to speak to a good portion of them too. There's a loophole here that maybe someone that we know of, but that we don't think about all the time, and this is a gap that I want to shrink, and I need your guys' help honestly with doing so. So what it is that there's great talent out there. There always has been. It's just finding them, right? And great, you don't go find great talent. Great talent really actually comes to find you. So that's kind of like what we like to do at Team Hire to where I'm at now. So we've taken the approach of a reverse engineer approach. It's like, it's not necessarily keywords and ads. It's not necessarily like how we write something. It's not necessarily where we deploy it. It's being able to have someone tell their story and be able to attract the right person, and how to be able to do so. And that could come from what made you get into the industry, like the industry, which is typically interesting. So one thing I learned from the great Grant Cardone, who I was under his tutelage at that time, right? And you guys, if you see a video and I didn't have a haircut, there was a reason for it. It was a long day. But I am on one of his I'm on his most watched video ever, and I usually people come into me like, "Dude, is this you?" And it is. One thing he used to say was like, if you're not interesting, then no one would be interested. So it's like you have to be interesting to the person so that they can be interested. And once you're interested, or once they're interested, now you have a little bit of emotional value that you can use to your advantage. And from there, it's like playing chess. You got to be a few moves ahead, but there's always going to be someone whatever it is that you're looking for is also looking for you. So some of the things that I think that insurance agency owners may need help with, and it's just not something that they could do one by one. There's got to be someone who comes in here and understands the mission, and this is what I hope to do. And this is my mission is to allow people the opportunity to know how good of a gig this potentially could be for them. This could be a real change in their not only their career but their lives. A lot of people don't understand the opportunity within financial services altogether, because most of the time that they've been approached has been it could have been from you know it could have been from I want to say something like but it could have been from the approach of being one of those recruiting based businesses that forced them into the field and they didn't really get a good idea about how this is truly done. So you're not under someone that you can actually learn from, who owned a business like yourself, Michael, and has actually been successful at it, has a following, and then allow them to do the things that they could do now. And you've been traveling the country. When someone realizes that, you know what happens? They eventually want to know. Those who are smart will know that they need to be around you. They don't care what it is that they have to do. They know that they can learn that, but they can bring grit. They can be trainable. They can be coachable. And as long as they have that, they're always going to be able to win because they know that there's an uptick in a learning curve. But sometimes some people will try to go after skill too early and not recognize that that could cause friction into the back end, because why would someone be so great and be looking for something? There's got to be something there. You need to be able to pull that out. So my team, what they do is they find they're able to play on those characteristics and force those individuals to compete for that position beyond just skill and characteristics, beyond just that, and they try to see what their actual character is and what they do in that position. So we give agency owners and anyone who's looking for that salesperson a glimpse of what that will be. Sales specific questions, make them handle objections amongst one another, and I know we'll get to that in a minute, but that's kind of like a snippet. But I think to end, all in all, I would say that the agency owner has to work with, we have to work together, all together, to be able to give this industry what it really is, to be able to truly explain what it is. And I don't think we've done a good enough job, and that's the switch that needs to happen. I don't think it was ever truly really there, and more than ever it needs to happen. So we need to be able to explain what they're going home and they're completely negating the opportunity when they get in front of the real salesperson, their wife, their mom, their dad, their husband. When someone sees like, oh, you're only getting this much, why don't you go work at Amazon? Why don't you go work here? And come on, like we know that the opportunity, that opportunity of like what it looks like as far as a base salary versus a commission, and what you can actually do, and then eventually own your own business if you do this the right way, is just bar none. That it doesn't make sense about why someone would choose the latter. So that's the gap that we're kind of shortening. Hopefully that made sense.
No, man, you said so many good things there, and a few things stood out, honestly. I think one thing that really stood out is if you're not interesting, they won't be interested in you. Is that what you said? Is that right?
Yeah, man. Why would someone want to come work for you if it looks like they're gonna have a really bad time there? So
I love that though,
yeah.
because that's why like my wife and I, like, we just, everything we do, like especially early on in the business, like social media is an extremely powerful
Oh yeah.
platform, and you can show people the opportunity of the life you live by having fun, working hard, play hard. Fun attracts people. Winning attracts people. You want to attract successful people. Show them your winning culture. Show them you having fun in not only your what you do for a living, but also your personal life. And so, man, that honestly hits that. That's good. Like if you're not interesting, they're not going to be interested.
Oh,
So
not at all. Yeah.
that's really good. And also, like you hit on something also, setting up for success. It's just not finding the talent, but when you do find the right person, or actually the right person finds you based off of what you're looking for, then how can you skill them up? Because I see so many business owners and agents. Well, okay, well, you hire somebody, then you're like, okay, go figure it out. It's like, no, you need a roadmap for success. Like, you need a roadmap for success. And I got something that can help you out with that. Weaver Sales Academy. So come on
No,
over.
truly.
But,
Truly, something you hit on that's amazing, man. It's they're if they don't want to churn and burn, like people are their own demise sometimes, and they don't recognize it. So when they're like, I need a top guy, or I need this guy, I need this that. Like if they're looking for a job now, man, that's the characteristic. They're going to be probably looking for it unless you have something different that they've never
mm-hmm.
seen before. And we're just gonna go and say that you don't, because if you really have to hit them, if you're not Elon Musk himself coming down and saying something like where they're gonna change the world and be at the forefront of that in front of everyone,
Yep.
that probably wouldn't be yourself. And it's no shame to the person, no shame to the person who's hiring, but it's like you have to you're running a churn and burn organization if you decide that these characteristics need to be had. And there's a question that you need to just ask yourself, is like it's not if I'm looking at this wrong, but may I look at this from a different perspective? And
Mm-hmm.
if I'm looking for someone who's like me out there, then I'm already failing because there is no one like you out there. You'd have to create that person,
Yep.
100%. So essentially, that's what we help business owners do. We help them incubate, and I think that's where the biggest change that we can make into going into the next step, right? Is truly incubating the next great salesperson because they don't exist. They don't. You have to create that person, but hey, they have characteristics
That's right.
that would help like eliminate that curve, and you do a lot of that groundwork very early, and it'll save you a ton in the background, a ton of time, a ton of money, a ton of burned resources, a ton of heartache, a ton of heartbreak, a ton of disappointing other people as well as yourself. And I think that's where business owners are now. Is like now they're questioning insurance. Small business owners, they make up the job that they have. People should respect. You should be able to walk by one and just walk in there and thank that person when you do. And if you're listening to this, if you want a job, I think that's one of the biggest things you could do. You can walk in, you can thank them for what they do for the bottom line of America, and because
Hmm.
without them, like this, the money's cyclical. It wouldn't go. It wouldn't flow this way, right? So people, what they don't understand is that as a business owner and being able to go under the as a mentee to learn from them to eventually be able to do it yourself with a pathway, with like a
Yep.
career path, like a set career path. If you hit these milestones, this will happen. Not a oh maybe. It's a hey look, you do what I say you do. Like this is how it goes. This is the way it happens. Choice is yours. You get a lot of people who are going to be respectful of your time and then be respectful of their own time when they decide that they want to come and work for you, because now it's not just a all right, I need this for the next 6 months. Now it's like all right, cool, so how do I get to six figures here? Like I see I'm getting a base of whatever, but I want to scale this to six figures. Is there any way or platform that you can have? How many calls on average does this typically make? Can you help me and show me where I could get a little bit better? Is there anything in place
Yep.
where you've noticed that someone, can you help me if I'm stuck there? I need to make this amount of money. You said that you can help me. Can I trust you on that? And I think it's a trust factor between two sides. So if someone doesn't give in a little bit, then no one's going to give in on the other end. It's got to be from somewhere.
Well, and I think one of the things you said up front is, and we'll move on to another question, but I just want to hit
Sure.
on this because I think it's
Yeah,
really
talk to me.
important. Is people? I think COVID. I think before COVID, this was relevant, but I think after COVID, it's even more relevant. Like people understand, like tomorrow is not promised. Like tomorrow is not guaranteed. Anything can happen. So if I'm going to work, okay, 40 hours, whatever, 50 hours, 60 hours a week, I'm going to do something that I enjoy, that brings purpose to my life, a career, not just a job. Like
Right.
if it's a job, I would rather just sit at home and collect checks from the GOV, man, from the government. Like,
Yeah.
why would I go waste my life working for a job that means nothing to me? And so I think that that's something, because that's one that what I hear. Well, Michael, the McDonald's down the road is offering $22 an hour. Okay, well, do you really think the individual that you're interviewing wants to go flip burgers for $22? No, they do not want to do
Right.
that. They want a career. So
Right.
you have to sell the vision, the why. Why do you do what you do every day? Why does your team do what they do every single day? And so I think you hit on that very early on. And I didn't want that to pass because I think that's super, super important as to what people are looking for: flexibility, time, freedom. Do you actually care about me, or do you just look at me as a way to make you money as a business
Mm.
owner? Like people don't know you care until you show them and tell them you care, man. So it's just I don't know, that I think that's really,
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah, I think that's huge, man. I'd love to see some content from you on that one too. I think you're one of the few people who do get it, and it's no, let's put it like this. There's no coincidence you are where you are versus people. And yeah, I was at the State Farm conference. So some of the people, when I told them that, I was like, "Hey, have you heard of this guy? You should probably check him out." They're like, "Oh man, that dude." And it was just nothing but great things that they said. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, for sure. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's nothing but great things that they said. I'm like, he's not here by accident. So it's like, he's not here by accident. This whole thing wasn't by accident. It's just it's a blueprint. It's it's a blueprint that you naturally live and that you've been able to exude through the things through the services that you provide. And if people
What?
trust you on it, man, like
Well,
then
I
join in
I
that organization.
yeah, man, I appreciate that. I mean, I think the biggest thing, my wife and I were just talking about this last night, like every business we've ever owned, our biggest investment is always in people. Like we're firm believers that if you want to grow your company, yeah, you could spend $100,000 in marketing, or you could spend $100,000 and invest and develop your people, which will be a better investment than any marketing dollar you ever spend. And so pour into your people, like grow them personally. And that's another thing. Now this is just my opinion, but I think right now people are wanting to develop and grow both personally and professionally. And that's what we're all about at Weaver Cells. That's what we preach because great, you can go to work, but if your personal life isn't good, you're never going to be able to live up to your potential in the professional world. Like, and I understand, look, change is inevitable. Growth is optional. Like, I get that. Like change is going to happen. Some people don't want to grow with the change. Some people are complacent, and that's fine. But if you want to develop a culture around winning, you got to find the people that are going to be willing to grow. And you have to have a growth like culture because if you don't, you're going to get left behind because when you get, there is no middle ground. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. I'm a firm believer in that. Grant says that all the time.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And so how can you truly make an investment in your people, pour into your people so that your people help your business hit levels you've never hit before?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. It's if people tell me that they have issues finding people, great. Let's work together. If you tell me that you're having trouble finding good people, great. Let's work together. Like it's like the answer is always yes, but I'm always gonna ask the question like, hey, now more than ever, I've asked the question, do you think you're ready to do something like this? Are you actually ready? Like mentally, have you made that switch yourself to know, like, this is what's next for you? Because you
Yep.
get the staff, then what? Now is
Yep.
it you go straight to marketing and like their next level of growth as a business owner. Their next level of growth as a business owner. And why I lost my shirt when I was doing right and got into this, I had a recruiting problem. But it wasn't that I had a recruiting problem. I didn't choose the right person. That's number one. And they had experience in what it was that I needed, and I knew that's what I was gonna easiest way to get started. And it was also the easiest way for me to get out of the business.
Yep.
And that's what happened. As you know, it didn't take too long for that to happen. So although it was successful when it was happening, it caused I wouldn't say grief, but one of the issues that I had was I didn't hire the right person. I could have hired someone who was gonna listen to like how this was done and be able to take
Yep.
that and duplicate themselves. So that you
Yep.
solve a recruiting problem when you put the right person in place and you train them like what you have and be able to get them onboarded, right? Because then they can attract other people for you. They're an extension of you. So you don't have to use recruiting services in the future. Maybe you do, maybe, unless you want to scale at a large rate, but they make things a lot easier for you and make you money, and eventually that's going to be that's going to be your a partner in yours at some point. So,
Well, I think you're hitting on something really powerful right now, and this is something that I've learned throughout the years of business ownership, and I'm a big believer in manifestation. But the one thing I'm encouraging all the agents I talk to, work with, that ask me about recruiting. I'm like, hey, it doesn't matter if you're going to recruit yourself or you're going to hire a recruiter like yourself at Team Hired. The first thing that you really need to do is figure out who is the ideal person that I want in my office. Like write down the job duties, the descriptions, the personality traits, the characteristics, roughly the age of what you're looking for, how far away from the office they live, or maybe they're a remote person. You have to have an ideal vision of who you're looking for to fit your culture before you ever should start recruiting, before you should ever hire a recruiter. Because then, I know that's probably some questions you ask when people contact you, but if you don't have a clear vision on what you're looking for, how can you ever build a sustainable culture and team if you have no idea what the perfect person looks like to come to your office, come into your business, be part of your family, and help you out and help you achieve your goals, you help them achieve their goals. You have to have that clear vision.
Right, right. I agree. Yeah, 100%. I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said. It's sometimes and I have a question for you. How does someone, because one of the things that we see, if someone is struggling and they leave and they decide that they want to, let's say they're like, hey Tim, like how long does someone typically stay? And I smile at the question every time because I'm like, hey man, that's a great question. Um, Here, I'll tell you some of the reasons why they don't leave, but as far as staying, it's totally up to you, right? It's like, have you really figured this out, or are you just kind of going out there to try to like lay an egg on this thing? And that's the reason why it's like we don't dump people in front of you and just be like, okay, figure it out. We can't let you make a bad hire because most of the business that we have is just purely word of mouth. We don't do any marketing. So it started with someone telling someone who eventually spread and told someone. It got to the right person who told
Yep.
enough people, and then those people told people, and that cycle has continued. What I noticed about certain people is like sometimes when you hire someone, and I'm sure you would agree with this, when you hire someone, your job is not done when you hire them. And I think it's like more or less just getting started, if you will. So when they put someone there and they're saying like I need a cold stone killer that's gonna do this and they're gonna do this and this, I'm almost thinking like if I did that, like what actually would that help you do? Is get more revenue, and then what would you do then? Like what would you? So my
Yeah.
thought is like if you get the right person that you can teach the right value of money. Maybe they don't have the right idea about what money would do for them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they just don't recognize it. Maybe they need a little bit of uptick. Like, are you taking any like personal development with them so that
Mm-hmm.
they can understand like why things are in place?
Yep.
Ask them why they took the job and what in them, what should they be receiving from you. So I agree, man. And part of that is training. It's like what training platforms do you have in order to help them get there? It's not like just and as you said, manifestation. It's just like all right, cool. Like what do they really want?
That's
And
right.
how do your goals align with what you can help them with? And like is there a clear like idea and pathway that helps them get there? I guarantee you if you show someone that, they won't leave you because they're not, their dreams are definitely attached to their actions.
Yep.
So if you can clearly define that and give them an idea about how to see that, you don't leave places like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Absolutely. It's the roadmap to success and the constant development. Like you can sell someone on a dream, but then
Hmm.
what's the roadmap to get there? What's the success blueprint to get there? And some agents even feel like that. Well, I, I have a dream, like I was sold a dream, but then I signed up for business ownership and agency. What's the roadmap to get there? And it's the same thing with the
Right.
team. Like you have to invest in yourself, you have to invest in the team, you have to develop, you have to grow. Because if you don't grow, if you don't invest in your team, they're going to get complacent. Then all of a sudden, all the excuses are going to come. Well, oh, the claim takes forever, whatever. You have to have. I'm a firm believer that you have to have a culture, especially right now. Like right now, it is literally testing everyone because everyone is short staffed. It doesn't matter if it's small business owners or if it's big insurance corporations. Like everyone is short, not everyone, but a majority of people are short staffed right now. The workloads are stressful. And so if you don't have that environment built of consistently getting better, positive attitude, controlling the controllables, winning the day, you are going to suffer. You're going to have teams just leave you. You're going to experience burnout, and that's
With the best people, with the
with the
best
best
people, with
people. Yep.
right, with the best people. What question for you? So let's say for instance the people who need what I think is less about sometimes salespeople. I think salespeople 100% benefit from your program and your services, but what something that I'm hearing, and dude, this is personally like a personal gem that I want to share with you that I don't know if anybody else has told you, especially on camera, right? Um, One thing that I'm picking up, man, it's like how much you can help an actual business owner themselves. And what I recognize is like sometimes the vision is so like it could be convoluted with so many different things that they're like, whoa, it's kind of bleak a little bit. You know, they're like, man, you know, did I do the right thing by taking this position? Did an agency field executive sell me on the idea? No, this is not the thing that I wanted to do. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like they're going through the same thing and someone else is going through. And I'm like, all right, cool. Think about that. How do you help that person who's going to in turn work for you? How do you guys actually see like, all right, how do we make our vision come true? And you're constantly working on it. And someone who's going to be there working with you is, and that's why I asked you. I was like, hey, do you think someone can be trained? That was earlier. I was like, hey, do you think someone can be
Hmm.
trained? Yeah, I could train a good person, but having someone there, like, and being able to get them there is, it's like I think sometimes the agent needs to be trained, and if someone is against that and it disagrees with like, no, I made it here and done this, hey, look, you already lost
Yep.
because the person that's constantly working to do something better than you, if you feel like your skill level is where it needs to be and it's always going to stay that for the next 40 years and you're going to be good, ask the
Mm.
people who have been in this who are getting ready to get out
Mm.
how they feel and about the things that they didn't do, right? Like going with the changes. It's like once you
Yep.
recognize and you allow services like yours and ours to do that work for you, you're ready. You can just be yourself and implant that, and just always just get better. And it doesn't hurt. I think people think it hurts to get better. Sure, depending on the perspective that you have about it, but does it hurt more getting better than to stay the same? Because I'd love to see that within the next like culminate over the next 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 down the line, and you being like, man, I should have actually taken that guy out when
Man,
he
if,
said,
if you think it hurts to get better, wait till you experience the hurt from being complacency, man.
oof,
And you get to your
man,
grave and you still have all the good ideas still sitting with you that you never took the risk on, you never tried, you never did, because whatever, life is just life, man. Like, no, you're either man. No, I love growth. Yeah, growth has its challenges and growth can be tough at times, but I'm a firm believer that if you have big goals, you have to become the person it takes to accomplish those big goals. And the only way you're going to be able to become that person is through the challenges of growth, through continuously pushing yourself, continuously investing in yourself. Because again, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And if you're getting worse, there's absolutely no way you're going to live the life of your dreams.
people, man, they'll talk to some people who don't want to spend. I mean, hey, look, it may not be a lot of money to me, but it could be to them, right? It could not be, and same for yourself. It may not be a lot of money to you, but just they think it's a lot of money. And I'm like, man, I remember getting down to nothing. And the funny thing about it was I felt better about getting down to nothing and being like, all right, it's time to come back versus like being like having it and being like, ah, man, I just spent this. Oh no. And like, because
Yep.
it's used as a tool to make you get better. But do
Hmm.
you have the right game plan in place? Or do those people have the right partnerships like like you and I and what we decide to work on in the future? Like, are those things in place to allow someone to like really blow up? And I think that that's where the space is like huge when the right partnership is in place and someone finds it. Like, imagine the amount of success someone has. Like
Yep.
finding a person and then being like, all right, cool. Now you're taking this person and they're going through a gauntlet. Like they're going to become like this. We need to find out how much to make. If that number isn't high enough, we're gonna look for somebody else. Like it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like some of those questions and like big goals, if an agency owner is willing to invest in themselves, they're going to be willing to invest in the people. And if they're willing to invest in the people, that investment will continue to happen naturally. You know, it'll just continue to.
Yep.
It's like a cycle. It's just like money. It's like a cycle. And I think people just have a bad view on what
Yep.
money is really here to do. Just as far as the person they're looking to hire, as well as themselves, like what they believe on it, and that's usually what they're going to attract. Like people attract like people. You know,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
it's
All
all good,
right,
man.
man. Man, we could get on another podcast and talk about this one thing. All right, so I want to know.
Talk to
I
me.
want to know. I want to
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
What can agents do? All right, so let's pretend they don't want to hire a hiring service. Like we don't want to we just want to do everything ourselves. What are
Sure.
some things they can maybe do from a job posting standpoint that you're seeing right now that can maybe stand out compared to other job postings, whether it's the agent down the road hiring, agent 20 miles away? Like what can they do to maybe be a little unique, be different from what you're seeing?
So that's a great question because you know, although they play a factor, it may not be the biggest factor. One of the things is you don't want to what you don't want to do is say the exact same thing as everyone else does. It's easy. It's just compensation, an idea of what someone. This is how we do it. Compensation. It's an idea about, and these are the principles we think about too. Not it's pure principles. I guess that's how we'll go at it. Lay out your principles. Lay out exactly what the job is going to be, and what you want someone to understand about it, and anticipate some of the questions that they would have and have those answered inside of that posting, and be able to do that concise enough to where they can look at that without having to scroll all the way down. If you can't do that, then seek out help. If you can't do that and you want to just you want to be able to hit on the same points, I'd rather you not try to look like a pure professional out there and just go and say what it is, but write what someone's going to get paid, what you expect them to make on if they're successful at this. That's going to help you grow the business as well as themselves. Lay out what a career path would look like, and give a little bit idea of what the culture is. Be able to
Mm-hmm.
do that in a sentence or two, and just leave it concise. Leave it pretty concise. If they want to call me or reach out and say, hey, look, I just wanted to talk to you about it. This is what I have, and you want to take a peek at it. Sure, I'll do that for you. And I have someone on my team definitely take a shot at it. And if at that point, if that's something that you feel like you need professional help with,
Mm-hmm.
then you take it from there. But if you feel like you can try it yourself, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So I got a
Definitely try it.
question for you. So I got a question. So
Yeah.
in a job posting, should someone be as general as possible to try and attract as many people as possible, or should it be more specific to where you're attracting truly more, probably more of a quality candidate than a quantity? And look, within quantity you're going to find some quality, but quality you're not going to have as many people. So I know it's kind of a double-edged sword, so I'd love your take on that.
Oh, that's great. That's a great question, man. If they don't have the money to do it, I would try to put out more than one and see what you get best from. It's a test at that point. It's a
Mm-hmm.
test. But I think that's where it gets expensive for some people. They're like, I got a lot out there. I got a few of those out there. I'm getting hit from different. So then you get to the point where you're like focusing on the vision of the business, and now you're like trying to see if you can stop one and see you can pull out what you can from this one. So I would say start with something, because then neither one is going to be wrong. Start with something, do it for a certain period of time, whatever you have in your mind. Uh, let's say you do it for a month, and go out there and do one, or do it at the same time. Do them both at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. See what results, and really go after that.
Yep.
See what hits better, and then it's or just do one at a time. Totally up to like what they can manage, or have
Yep.
someone manage it for them. So I think one of the best thing is like when it comes to a posting, is just being honest about what it is, because
Mm-hmm.
someone a quality person can read through things pretty quick.
Yep.
They can read through things. So they're probably looking at this thing. It's probably something that they're looking for. So it's not like a keyword, but it's most likely how something is said,
Yep.
and then what they picked up from it. So I mean, one of the things is like to help, and this is like a huge gem. If you guys are gonna take me up on anything, it'd be this. It's like find someone that you would likely hire, and show it to them and see if what their thoughts are on it.
Mm.
Literally, and take out.
Mm.
And what I would do is that before you even post anything, is I would take out what the opportunity is and see if it's interesting enough without the opportunity. Telling them
Yep.
what it is. Don't say it's insurance. Like when you go actually post it, sure, but like find a way to track someone beyond using any type of keywords. Because
Mm.
if that's good enough, then you'll be fine. I mean, I think you could. But then the only thing comes at that point is, I'm not saying that that's going to be the thing that works. That's a piece of it, because then there are others out there, right? Who are saturated. So the only problem that they have when it comes to quality is like depending on how much they're spending, which can get expensive, depending on how much they're spending would determine where they're located on pages. And that's where it becomes difficult because someone is not necessarily just searching insurance. They're
Yep.
not going in and looking at State Farm. There's a very specific person that's looking for that. They've either worked in
Yep.
claims or they've had maybe an internship at one time, or they were doing this at one time and are no longer licensed and probably weren't that good, so they went in to try something else. So it's like so many different factors in there, and that's why I try to take it away, because once you dive in, man, it's hard to get out and like try to look at other things, you know. But if they really wanted
Absolutely.
to do it, it's like, yeah, keeping it as generic as possible and getting someone that you would likely hire and you like, hey, this is the type of person, and asking their opinion on what they
Hmm.
think about that without using any of the words. That's what I would do.
Okay. Nope. I love that. I love that answer. I I think that's yeah. I think that's amazing. So, talk to me a little bit about the power of group interviews. I know this
Oh
is
man.
a. I know this is a. I don't think this is a new trend. I think this is something recruiting services have probably been doing for a long time. Not necessarily business owners. Business owners,
Sure.
like when I think about when I owned it, it was always, hey, okay, let's come in, let's talk. I would do a phone interview first if I liked them. Okay, great, let's come in. And then I heard about the group interview just a couple years ago, and I was like, wow, that seems really smart because with the power of technology with Zoom, like you can still see people face to face. So talk to me a little bit about group interviews and how to go about that, and really what you see on your end about how it's more powerful than just maybe the traditional way of doing things.
Uh, Another great question, Mike. It's I would say one of the things that stick out with group interviews, if someone hasn't done one yet or hasn't seen what it's like, is that with group interviews, you get to see the true, you get to see things that, easiest word, body language, I guess, easiest phrase, body language. There's something that you could pick up without someone having to say anything or showing you over a phone call that you would not necessarily see before they decided to come meet with you. So you can use this as a liaison, and a preface to see if this is even someone that you'd like to meet with. And it doesn't matter how they necessarily look, or it doesn't matter if like if you know maybe they're old or older, or like they're younger or too young, and it's like you have certain characteristics. You can
Sure.
there's some things that you pick up from there, and you're like, oh, I was wrong about that. I was totally wrong.
Hmm.
And so we use the group interviews as an opportunity to allow characteristics as well as skill set compete amongst
Yep.
to allow them to compete amongst their peers, for the position that you have available. And then it's totally up to you when you come in there unbiased. If you come in there unbiased, you'll see some things that you didn't necessarily notice. And then it changes your perspective on everything, because like now you're at like, wow, like I thought I was gonna go after this person, and immediately, like, this is a person who stuck out to me because of these things, while also having someone navigate like a room and like go through to help you. You're just sitting
Hmm.
back with a, with the notepad, and you're taking notes. So
Yep.
everything that you see from there, when you do meet with them in person, and you do it through Zoom,
Hmm.
like group interviews at your office is different through Zoom because you
Sure.
can control it a little differently, right?
Yep.
And what we do is we don't. One of the things I think that we did is we don't actually go through and ask everyone the same question, so they don't really know who's gonna. They don't know what that question is gonna be. You can gauge interest level. We switch it up so we can see like if they're actually paying attention, right? And then based on what they're asked, like no matter a good someone with great characteristics and what you're looking for that's actually gonna fit, you'll be able to pick that up no matter what they're being asked. Or even if they were like completely wrong about how they went about it, it may just be, or about the way they went about it, it may just be a small tweak that you're willing to fix. And that's where we get both of them emotionally invested because they gave it their all and they're actually looking for something. You could be like, all right, that's the guy. Yeah. Versus the guy saying, oh, I did this before, went over here. Next thing you know, you look a little deeper into him and he's hot from agency to agency.
Yep.
He's just looking for a higher base salary. Versus the
Yep.
guy who may have looked for a career change, and he's there, he may be lackadaisical, and he's like, all right, cool, I've helped four people open their own business in the last 4 years. What? Business? What do you mean? Yeah, so now they have a ton of questions about how this is going because they're struggling. They don't
Hmm.
know anything from anything. but they have a direct contact now, and they're showing you what their real flaws are to allow it to say, hey, look, can you work with me? If not,
Yep.
it's okay. Do you have any tips and tricks? So you're gonna get different things from people that you normally wouldn't get through a phone call, because they're afraid. It's the trust level. I think that's a huge thing. It's since COVID, it just elevated the fact that people, like, if I'm gonna step away from my family, if I have children, I have a wife, I have things like that, and it may not be so, it may not be, for lack of a better words, cookies and bubbles at home, right? It
Mm-hmm.
may not be like the best thing. It's not all roses. What am I going to step out there? Am I going to go to work and feel better? Am I going to go to work and work for someone who's going to inspire me to change what's going on at home? Am I gonna be able to be honest with someone enough that they can change my life?
Yep.
And that's where those things come in. It's like we utilize this opportunity to see, okay, there's something here that I want to pull out of this person, and I want to interview them. I want to go a little deeper, but I have the spark notes on them from that group interview and how they performed amongst each other. And all of a sudden, things change when you get to a one-on-one and you have that heart-to-heart. This person is more emotionally invested. The business owner feels inspired because this is what he or she wanted to do, as they
Yep.
wanted to create another person like themselves because someone did that for them. So, and I'm sure people look at you that way based on like your success and what they did, and that's kind of the name of the game, man. Is being able to see who you can pass this along to, and that's what you're searching for.
Well, and I think so. I think there's a lot of benefits to group interviews. The more I've researched it, the more I've actually like
Hmm.
watched it. But for those out there that are
Hmm.
like, look, Michael, I'm just going to do this myself. Um, I don't necessarily know if group interviews are for me. But regardless, if you're still like, I know a lot of business owners will first have a phone call with somebody. Instead of, my challenge to you is instead of the phone call, let's increase it and use technology and actually do a Zoom call. Because when you think about the now and the future, virtual appointments, virtual selling, virtual everything is going to become more of a thing. Like technology doesn't slow down, it only goes faster. And so instead of the traditional phone call where you would pick up a phone for 15 minutes, call somebody, see what they're doing. Let's have a Zoom appointment to see how they show up on the very first interview. So they can't be in their pajamas.
Right.
How are they going to show up? Because here we go. Like interviews are like first dates. And if
Yeah.
someone shows up to a first date and you're not crazy about them on the first date, you think you're going to be crazy about them when you decide to offer them a job and get
Right.
married? No,
Right.
you ain't going to be crazy about them. You're going to be like,
Right.
shit, I just made a bad hire 3 months in. What do I do?
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to utilize technology, whether it is group interviews or whether it's one-on-one, and actually see the person. What is it before you invite them into the office? Unless it's a remote position, then obviously you're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Now, if it's an
Yeah.
in-person position, they're going to be coming to your office. Still, schedule the Zoom interview. See how they show up on camera, and then if you like them, invite them into the office for an in-person interview.
It's so much more personal. Especially, I think people are a little bit afraid of groups because they think they have to do it by themselves, and like, it's a little bit. I can understand to a certain point. So from their perspective, Mike, it's funny because some people are just like, all right, so if I'm in front of 10 people, like, how do I navigate this thing? And if am I saying the right thing? That's usually one of the first things. Is like, hey man, do you have any prep, like, on how this thing goes, like what I'm
Yep.
supposed to say? And
Yep.
usually we do. We have an onboarding call where we bring other people, and they actually show up themselves amongst is one person who navigates the room, and they kind of go through it the first time, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. So when they get there and they're there to open up their opportunity, I've seen people bomb, like, like
Yep.
selling the opportunity, and we have to do it again. We're like, all right, cool, no worries. But it's only because, like, you utilize, and it's usually someone who's been in the business maybe 30, 40 years that is going to do that. And then the event, what I tell them, I was like, hey, if you're scared, have a hiring manager, have someone you actually trust along with
Yep.
you,
Yep.
and allow us to be able to lean on us to be able to help do that. Just be honest with us about how you feel so we can help you navigate this thing. With the also strength in numbers, typically. People say, well, I think I could pick up things here. I'm like, hey, look, if you do it the right way with selling the job, selling the vision of the businesses we talked about before, they'll come to you.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come to you. And this is the opportunity if you're in front of, let's say, for basic metrics, as I would use, 10 people.
Yep.
If you're in front of 10 people and you sell that the right way, good a natural 30% would be what you're looking at on average, but you're looking at numbers here. So the way that interview goes as they compete, now you're pulling, whether they have other interviews or not, they're not doing this with other people. So now you're looking at versus just looking at one person and doing this, and think about lost opportunity costs and other things that you have to do and hoping that this person shows up. And
Yep.
so when you see them the first time, it really, I wouldn't say it completely eliminates people not showing up for their actual interview in person with you, but it eliminates a good portion of that choice for them because they've already met you. So they'll be honest with you now at this point to say, all right, well, I've got something else, or like, hey, look, I'm really just making sure that I'm going to be able to show up. Here, I just want to make sure this isn't a scam. I want to make sure I go over there and like I can actually show up to this job. Not only do I need one, but I want one. I really had a good opportunity with you. It's like so many things I want to learn. And versus being like you get on the phone call, it's like, yeah, show up, you're here. Who knows what may have happened, or they get there and it's like, all right, now you have to
Yep.
make an assessment. There's so many things that you can pick up, and you could do it in volume. So I would say instead of doing, if just like you would tell a salesperson, would you have them get hung up on one call, or would you have them go through 10 and be able to get 3 or 4 deals?
That's right.
We all know the answer, so I want you to take it. I want you guys to take the same approach and just trust us because we're going to
Mm.
help you navigate the field. We'll
Yep.
help you pick out who the Maverick is. And if there's someone that you see that you felt like may have slipped, you want to talk to them, then we go and we hyper focus on them afterward. But there's an
Mm.
approach that you have rather than trying to come and try to hyper focus initially, because there's an entire game going on,
Yep.
in between.
Yep.
There's an entire game going on. So
Well,
that would be my approach.
I love the power in numbers. I think that's really, I think that's really powerful because it's kind of like, look, okay, some people do marry the first person they date, but for the majority of for the majority of people, you don't marry the first person you date, man. Like,
Yeah, man.
you got to go
Yeah,
through
man.
some numbers to find the right person for
Yeah.
you. But it's the same thing with team. Like, you're not gonna hire the first person you interview unless you just like knock it out. But anyways, all right,
Yeah.
man. So I think it's a great. If y'all enjoyed the buzz today, make sure you give us a 5-star review, man. I feel like there's a ton of gold
Yeah.
nuggets in this episode. Make sure you share the insurance buzz with your friends. Tim, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
You guys can email me. It's real simple, tim@teamhired.com. I'm pretty open today as well. You can reach me on my cell. I'll give it to you guys. It's cool. I have 2 of them. So the main cell that I use, you can reach me. It's a 516 number, 516-530-5595. I have a lot of numbers. And that's my main cell that I'm typically on. You can get me. You can get me now. You can get me anytime. In the future, it'll still be here. And then, yeah, you email me, give me a buzz, contact me on social. You can reach me on Facebook. If there's my Instagram is the Timo Mian. I'll share that with you, Mike. But for the most part, catch me on Facebook. Catch me on some of Mike's posts, making some jokes every like here and there, or like taking some of his content and being able to read share with my community. Because one of the things, man, people like yourself, one of the things that, and I'm sure you know this, you're really honestly in the education field. And then
Mm-hmm.
the reason I want to tell you is because what you're teaching people is you're educating them on their perspective and how to get better at what it is that they do. And one of the things that I like from you is that typically you're educating people, even in some of the small things that you do in traveling. You may not look at it from that perspective, but that's how, or maybe you do, but really that's what I look at it as. This is my main point with you, and that's why I love you, man. Is because when I share it with other people, they're more intrigued and reach out to me now about like, hey, like what are these, like, hey, that's cool. I want to travel. I want to do this. I want to do that. Or they're sharing your stuff or taking your pictures and maybe not even giving you credit for it. Who knows? Saying it's them. But but one of the things is like they're picking up like, okay, look, I want to be a part of this lifestyle. And I think that's something that I want a business owner to understand is do your part, and I'll help you bridge the gap with these guys because the next leg of this thing, and I hope this inspires someone, is that we're going to make insurance look sexy. There is a way to do it. I think there is. I think there is a way for it to look sexy. When you look at the rewarding feeling and about the lifestyle you're able to live because you're helping people, and it's just a, hey man, it's just it's a byproduct of success and being able to help people. When people can understand what the opportunity is within insurance, and you can help me do that, you guys can help me do that, right? What it
Yep.
does, it bridges the gap, and now we can literally change the future of not only recruiting within the space, but we can change the future of what people think about careers
Yep.
altogether. And I think that that would essentially change and bring people closer together, is when we have a commitment level and an understanding about what it is that we do that helps others. So I think that starts with the business owner, and I think that once you start there, I'll take care of the rest, man. I'll be able to get to these people and show them something into the future. And man, I just love to thank you for that. Not only having me, but being a part of that change, because you've already started it. So
No, thank you
thanks,
for
man.
that. No, thank you for that, brother, and thank you for those kind words, man. Like
Sure.
I'm with you. Like leadership starts at the top, and at the end of the day, right now, I think more than ever, again, pouring into your people, personal and professional development, helping people create the life of their dreams, and then live that life. And that's what Courtney and I are all about, and hopefully, it does help. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate
Totally.
every single one of you listening to the buzz right now. As you all know, time is the most valuable and important asset that we all have. So I appreciate you spending almost the last hour with Tim and I. Tim, thank you so much for your time, brother. Man, I appreciate you. Tons of really good golden nuggets in this episode. So I appreciate it, my man.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure. The pleasure is all mine.
All right, everyone, have a great day. Go make it great.